So now we're going to crack into the inside her head breakdown, or if you want to call it the women breakdown. This is where I'm going to talk about all of the elements that relate to her psychology, evolutionary psychology, her blueprint, all of those type of elements. And this is where you're really going to get the flavor of women, where we're reversing the game around to make it about the girl first. I'm sorry, that might have been the most adorable expression I've ever seen in my entire life.
What?
The look of like consternation and like politeness on your face a second is just like, I don't even know. I'm sorry.
Did I put it back then?
I'm sorry, I didn't introduce myself. I'm sorry.
Nice to meet you. Yes.
You are very bubbly.
What?
You're very like bubbly and happy. I love it.
Am I? That's not one I've ever gotten before, but I'll take your word for it.
So let's look at where she's at right now. So I opened her. She might be a little surprised by this at first, a little bit like caught off guard, because that's how it is. I mean, she is in a nightclub lounge, so she can expect that. But she's now in, already you can tell by her reaction, you can tell by her tone of voice, etc. She's already like opened up to the idea of conversation, and she's already definitely reacting, and tell, again, by the tone of the voice, by the smiling, the giggling, that kind of stuff. Okay, so already, I'm not going to say that she's like attracted to me yet, but she is already seeing that I'm not a low-value person, right? And she's kind of open to the possibility because I've approached in a way that didn't like bring up any red flags, didn't trigger any kind of resistance, that kind of stuff, right? So if you're looking in terms of like where she's at in like the hooking process, do I have her focus? Yes. Is she finding this relevant? She's beginning to. Okay, so she's beginning to find this relevant. She's beginning to be emotionally reacted, a little bit emotionally invested in what's going on. Now, it's just a start. It's 25 seconds in, all right? So let's not go crazy here. But already, this is very positive, and this is how you want your interactions to look. Maybe it's just my influence.
Okay, probably.
Maybe just, you know, you saw me and you got really, really happy. And
Yeah, exactly.
It's good. I'm flattered. I'm a little concerned. Like, I'm not sure, you know, it's a little too much too fast. I'm a very shy boy.
Same. So
you're a shy boy? This is weird.
Girl. Excuse me.
Okay, so I'm already starting to assess her blueprint. Now, from what, you might ask? So she's being agreeable, but she's being agreeable in a sarcastic way, okay? Which tells me a couple different things. It tells me, number one, I can get her to, there's sort of like, there's the idea of commitment and consistency, which is if you do a particular behavior often enough, you have to start to justify why you're doing that behavior. I know I can get agreement on a lot of things, so I'm going to imply a lot of things, I'm going to assume a lot of things that I can get her to sarcastically agree to, and over time, enough sarcastic agreement is going to equal real agreement. Okay, so that's number one. That indicates like a tactic for me, indicates a way forward to sort of like just how to persuade, how to interact with her, that sort of thing. The other thing, for a girl that is very sarcastic, what can you assume? And there are a lot of assumptions you can make here. You can assume she enjoys banter, right? So I'm going to up the gaminess of the interaction. I'm going to up the frame control elements. I'm going to up the shit test giving, the shit test passing, those kind of things. Also, generally people who are sarcastic tend to be good linguistically. They're good with words. And people who are good with words tend to be educated. So these two things mean I can use bigger words with her. I can talk about more sort of like advanced educated concepts with her. It means that she may be a little more attached to the idea of herself as an intellectual, idea of herself as smart. So that's an area where I can challenge her. It's also an area where if I show aptitude in terms of intelligence, it's going to be very impressive for her. So notice from this very little bit of information, I'm already determining a ton of things about what are this girl's value system, what's her life history, where's she coming from, what are the buttons I can push. Yeah? You're a little adorable.
Thanks.
What is, in like, before we go both like find our people, what is your story briefly?
What do you mean my story?
What do you mean my story? Interesting. Okay. So number one, the tone of voice, right? Sort of a flirty tone of voice, sort of an intrigued tone of voice, definitely engaged tone of voice. Okay, so note that. She's flirty, she's engaged, and she's feeling, probably when I say I'm putting her on the spot. What do you mean my story? She's feeling put on the spot. And she's asking for clarification, right? And what does this mean? It means two things. Number one, she wants to have an answer, right? She wants to qualify herself to me. She wants to prove herself to me. I have value. She wants a good reaction, etc. And on top of that, she's a bit nervous about giving the right answer, which heightens it even more, okay? So I would say as of this moment, in terms of social value, I definitely have it in her eyes. I'd also say You can read more about her blueprint, which is she's probably someone who's done well in school. She's probably used to getting accolades or acceptance or good grades or plaudits from people. She's used to people saying nice things about her. She's used to having approval, right? And so she's going to probably be approval seeking in a lot of things that she does, even if she maybe acts like she's not, right? Because she's also sarcastic. So a lot of times she may act like she doesn't want approval in order to hide the fact that she wants approval, but deep down, this is a girl that definitely is used to having approval, wants approval, and definitely wants to have the right answers. She cares very much about having the right answers, which also, to go a step further with it, might also mean she's a little bit like sort of politically correct in some ways, which I personally hate, and I want to like disabuse her of that if we're going to have like a one-night stand or anything like that. But that's another factor to take into consideration. So again, not a lot of information, but you can read so much from it. What would surprise me about you, other than, you know, the bubbliness that surprises you about you?
I'm new to New York.
Okay. How long? I'm new to New York. Okay. This is huge when determining a girl's blueprint, not in terms of like who she is fundamentally as a human being on a deep level, but her sexual blueprint, her relationship blueprint, absolutely huge. She's new to the city, okay? If she's new to the city, unless she moved here with a guy, which she's out at a club not with some guy, so there's a good chance she didn't move here with a guy and she's not, whatever. Unless she moved here with a guy, if she's new to the city, it means she's fairly unattached, she's fairly open for adventure, she's fairly willing to meet someone, et cetera, okay? Logistically, in terms of screening for whether things can happen, massively good sign. Also, understand that she's going to be a lot more open to experiences, open to adventures, more willing to take risks than other girls might. And this girl is actually going to fall probably into two of the sort of extreme categories in terms of hookup versus relationship. She's either very, very much looking for a relationship. If she's been a relationship person in the past and is new to the city, doesn't have a relationship, she's going to be kind of a little desperate to get into one. If she's new to the city and is not a relationship person, she's going to be kind of in the explore mentality and the like, I don't mind hooking up with random people mentality. So it's very likely she's going to be extremely one case or the other in terms of sort of her sexual and relationship blueprint as well.
A few weeks.
Congratulations. Welcome to my city. I appreciate it.
Thanks. So what about you?
What about me?
What's something interesting about you?
So I've lived in New York for quite a while, but I travel way too much, and so I'm like here and there and here. I just got back from, I did an 8-city trip, so I'm like very excited to be back in my city. Yeah. I don't know, beyond that, I don't know, what do you want? Like hopeless romantic, long walks on the beach?
I don't know. It's whatever you've got for me, really.
Okay, two things here. One is not directly related to what she's feeling, but it's relating to how I'm dealing with what she's feeling and how I'm dealing with the general female blueprint, which is whenever I'm asked biographical questions, I'm always going to play up at least one positive characteristic of my life. So in this case, I played up the travel, adventure, like freedom aspect of my life, right? But whenever you're asked a biographical question, your answer, it should be factual, it should tell the girl about you, it should let her get to know you, but it should also be conveying at least one highly positive male quality, right? So it could be that you're successful, it could be that you're adventurous, it can be that you have good social proof, it could be that you've had, dated hot girls, it could be that you're good in bed, it could be that you're good at like sports and athletics, which shows physical prowess. But every single time you are given a biographical question, if you just answer with plain facts, what do? I'm an engineer, you wasted an opportunity, okay? That is your opportunity to convey one positive quality. Now, you don't want to ever do it in a braggy way. You don't ever do it like you're trying to force it, but you've been asked a question, so you have free reign to actually give information. Any information you give in answer to a question is not bragging. If you brought it up on its own, it would be bragging. The other thing that I really love is this last phrase, the whatever you've got for me. That's huge. That's absolutely huge. That means that she's getting to this state of she's making a decision that she likes me independent of events. She's not just liking the conversation with me. She's not just liking what she can get from me, but she's like, I'm open to anything from you. I'm open to whatever from you. To me, this is a massive, massive, massive green light, right? What have you got for me? Literally would mean a penis, if you really think about it, right? But she doesn't mean it literally that way. But saying I'm open to anything, saying I don't have particular restrictions or standards for you. It means, in a certain sense, you've already, to a large extent, passed a lot of my standards, so I'm just going to enjoy this with you. It's a huge, huge, huge green light. It's a huge indicator. And if you miss these kind of indicators, you're going to progress things forward much more slowly than you otherwise could. You're going to be much more hesitant than you otherwise should be. Whatever I've got for you? Mm-hmm. You'll take anything I've got. All right. Who are you here at the moment? Just you or a bunch of friends?
No, I'm looking to meet someone.
Okay.
I have to find him.
Oh, fair enough. Well, hi, I'm Todd. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
So this is a very good example of the fact that attraction is not a choice, right? She's there to meet another guy. Turns out, as we see in the other clip, maybe he's a friend, maybe he's a lover, maybe he's a potential, like, whatever. Who knows what exactly he is. But she's there with, like, the intention of meeting some other guy, meets a dude, is attracted, right? And this can happen if she has a boyfriend, can happen if she's married, etc. Attraction is not a choice. Acting on attraction is a choice. Attraction itself is not a choice. The girl does not have a choice whether to get aroused by you. The girl does not have a choice whether to get wet in your presence. Does not have a choice. She does have a choice whether to let you touch her, kiss her, have sex with her. But as far as the emotional part, that's not her choice. Very, very, very key to realize. Interesting. I'm supposed to meet people in a little bit, but nobody's here as yet.
Gotcha.
I'm the one at the moment. You live in Manhattan?
Yeah.
Do you do drinks with cute, spontaneous boys?
It's not spontaneous.
You gave me the funniest look just now.
Do you live in Manhattan?
I do. Like meatpacking area? Okay. That's good. I mean, you're kind of far away, but it's like a straight shot, so it's fine.
Oh, okay. You're like planning it out. All right.
As long as there's no like crosstown taxis involved and us hanging out, it's okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So notice here, she is slightly hesitant in making plans. May or may not have, if I had actually pushed for it, but I didn't really feel that it was optimal to push for it. We're only 2 minutes in. There's plenty of time. It's not a rush. But what I want you to notice is that as I've started to bring up the relationship frames, she's playing right along. She's following the lead, right? And girls will tend to do this. The secret to dealing with escalating on girls is to just set a subtle lead, and oftentimes they will play along. If you try and push it and force it, they'll tend to resist it. People tend to run away from the things that chase them, right? But at the same time, if you don't bring it up, they won't, because they have all the sort of social pressure and social like anxiety and I can't be a slut and all that kind of stuff going on. So your job as a man is create a good environment, create a good vibe, and then you want to lead the escalation, but don't push the escalation. Let them participate, let them play, let it be an experience for them, because that's the way the girl wants to have sex, is as an experience, not as I got pushed and coerced into something happening. So notice throughout the next bit, especially a lot of the banter, how I take on a frame. I take on some kind of like sexual frame, relationship-y frame, but I don't push it. I don't like keep hammering on it, and then she plays along. And if anything, I'm the one who drops it first. A lot of guys, what they'll do, they'll bring up these like, sort of sexual relationship-y frames. The girl will play along, and goes like, the guy's like, oh, that worked. And they'll just keep hammering on that frame and hammering on that frame and hammering on that frame like it's the only move they know, right? You'll notice, A, I'm bringing up the frame first, and then she's playing with it. B, I'm dropping the frame first, moving on to other things, moving on to other frames. So I'm constantly in control. I'm constantly leading the escalation, but I'm never forcing it. And she's going to participate a lot when I do that. That's where I draw the line. I mean, you're charming and all, but like, a boy's got to have his standards.
Where the line is, as long as you know it. Yeah, it's good. You always need a line.
Okay, so what brings the adorable, sort of innocent-seeming girl to New York? Okay. So, because you were passionate about a subject, or because you just didn't want to leave school?
Because I'm passionate about a subject, and I need my master's to get the job I want.
Okay. I feel like being a parent being like, good girl, but no, tell me more about it. I'm sorry. That's almost condescending. Okay, so a couple things. Number one, I just want to point out that what she just said verifies so much about what we knew about her blueprint 30 seconds in, right? She's academic, educated, in an environment where it's about not getting things wrong. It's about getting good grades. She's looking to get a credential, meaning, for her very job livelihood, she needs the acceptance that she's achieved something within society, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So number one, great verification to blueprint. We were very right in our assessment early on. Number two, this whole like pat on the head condescending thing, that's my start to undermining the parts of her blueprint that aren't helpful to me, okay? Because part of this girl's blueprint is going to be following rules, doing things by the book, being politically correct. If she's going to follow the rules, do things by the book, and be politically correct, that's not a frame that's very conducive to meeting a stranger. Definitely not a frame that's very conducive to going home with a stranger, those kind of things, all right? So as much as I don't want to like blatantly like heads up like fight her frame and get into a battle with her where someone has to win and someone has to lose, I don't want to allow her to just comfortably sit in these frames that aren't enhancing things moving forward, all right? So I want to undermine these frames, lead to other frames, give alternatives to the frames, those kind of things, rather than get stuck in her frame, in a frame that's not going to lead to good things. And so many guys do this too. The girl's passionate, the girl's enjoying talking about something, but the thing the girl's talking about is a frame that will lead to the friend zone or a frame that will not lead to sex, and they just let the girl keep talking and talking, like, oh, it's going well, the girl seems happy. Well, yeah, she seems happy, but in order to sleep with you, she probably needs to seek your validation. And if she's completely validated, yeah, she's happy, and she will also not sleep with you. I'm sorry to have offended you by state.
No,
Goodness.
it's okay. It's all right.
Fair enough. See, we're off to such a good start, but now it's just not going to work out.
Yeah.
too
I
bad.
mean, we was on the same side of the city, and then it's all downhill from there.
I know. It's nice meeting you. I want you to
It
know
was
it's
nice
not
meeting
you,
you.
it's me.
Okay,
I still think
definitely you. I know it's you.
I still think you're a wonderful person.
Thank you.
I would hope that one day we could be friends. It'll hurt for a while for me.
Okay.
So-
Understandable.
Yeah, it might take me a while to get over it.
Oh, it definitely will.
I might have to date like 5 or 6 other people in between or something.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it happens to the best of us.
Yeah. You have that effect on men.
Yeah, definitely.
You're super adorable. I literally don't even know. All right, so it means that you work a lot, but your schedule is fairly free. So it's like a lot of like working, like you have a little bit of classes, but then you have a lot of like research time. So let's look at what just happened there. That's a little something I call like sneaking one past the goalie. Basically what happened is I wanted the frame in the conversation that we have a relationship, right? And how is that executed here? It's the idea of us breaking up. Well, if we don't have a relationship, we can't break up, right? But I didn't say, oh, we're together, we have a relationship now. I talked about we're breaking up because of this, right? So I just assumed it true rather than making it true. And the reason why she accepted the frame was twofold. One was there was a lot of other things going on, so the frame was kind of an afterthought, right? The idea of we have a relationship to break up from was an afterthought with all the fun, interesting breakup things going on. The other thing is the way I did the breakup is very flattering and very validating to her and also very fun. And so she's going with the fun, she's going with the validation of the whole thing, and then what slips through the crack is the idea of the frame of us being together. But there's this great principle with the human mind, which is that in order to understand a story, you have to experience the story a little bit. You can't understand a story without envisioning it happening, without like feeling the feelings that the characters are going through. So when I put her through this breakup, when I put her through this scenario of us together in a relationship, she can't experience the jokes, she can't participate and keep up with the conversation without imagining us in that frame. And to her brain, there is, I don't want to say no difference, but there's very little difference between imagining us together and us being together, at least for that short period of time, okay? So this is another way that I create these sexual frames, I create this relationship-y vibe, I create whatever kind of ideal relationship I'd like us to have, but I never explicitly ask for it, I never explicitly push for it. I just do it as like an afterthought or an underlying kind of assumption in other things that are going on.
And then I try and stay sane the other time.
How's that working out?
A lot of drinking.
Well, I go out a lot too, so we can, you know.
Well, that works
Tell you
then.
what, we can go out, we can hang out together. Just like we'll keep the Googleable Facebook facts to like a minimum, so that if
Okay.
you become a weird stalker, like you have limited ammo.
Good. I'm glad you're acknowledging that you're going to become a weird stalker and that I need to be preventative.
So two kind of very interesting things that happen here. First is, why do I bring up this no Googleable, no Facebookable stuff? Basically, this is me trying to be very much in the lover category and not in the boyfriend category, okay? If someone's your boyfriend, you know their intimate details, you know the story of their life, you're Facebook friends with them, you know these kind of things, right? You know these things. For a guy that's a random hookup, a lover, a guy that like is just like not part of your life, but you just think he's so fucking hot and you hook up with him, for that guy, that kind of stuff's not so important because you don't expect him to stay around anyway, right? So when I'm saying these things, no Facebook, no Google, that kind of stuff, I'm saying as a kind of a negative for her, kind of like a thing to like devalidate, make her chase, whatever. But I'm also pointing out that frame. I'm putting myself very much in the non-boyfriend frame. This is important when you're thinking that you might possibly want to have like a one-night stand. Later on, if you want to get someone to follow up from a phone number, this actually can hurt you sometimes. But if you're thinking, I'm going to pull the girl home tonight, if you think that's a possibility, then staying in that frame is very, very good. The other thing I want you to notice here is how she damn well knows exactly what I said, right? She's trying to do a misinterpretation on me, which is very cute. It's very cute for her to use a pickup tactic on me. Good job. That'll probably work on me. But anyway, she knows very, very blatantly what I said. But the fact of the matter is she doesn't like the frame and she doesn't know how to deal with it. And so she's becoming very reactive to the frame. And now she's throwing this shit test back at me. But the problem for her is it's such a blatant and obvious shit test that I can just like roll my eyes and ignore it, and she just looks silly because of it, right? But this is what will happen when girls get frustrated. When girls get frustrated and girls can't revalidate themselves, they'll do like kind of extreme or dumb things to revalidate themselves. And what that'll do is it just opens them up to be teased more. It opens them up. It just points out that value gap that you're not being reactive and they are. And it's sort of this like cycle for the girl where your value gets higher and higher and higher, and she'll struggle and struggle more and more for it. So this is a nice little example of that. Assuming you handle it well. If you buy into her frame and just like let her get her validation back, or if you do like can't pass a shit test, can't handle yourself, that doesn't work. But assuming that you stay non-reactive when the girl's getting very reactive and looking for your approval, if you don't even have to disapprove of her, you just have to not be effusive, just to basically be normal, and she's just gonna like keep getting more and more attracted to you. So I don't know what to do with you.
Probably run away.
Maybe. You're witty and at least partially educated though, so that's good.
Partially, yeah.
You know, you're partway through your education. So here's a question. When what you're doing, are you actually really learning stuff, or are you just doing it to get the degree and then you're just going to do whatever you would have done before? So what did I just do there? I just challenged her. But I didn't just challenge her randomly. I challenged her on one of the things that she cares very much about, right? Again, she's very into her education. She's very into her studies, very into like being perceived as smart. So what did I say? I said, oh, that's good, you're partially educated. First of all, I said, that's good, you're da-da-da. So it's actually a compliment. Like technically, it's a compliment. But when I say partially educated, to a girl that values herself as I have high levels of advanced degrees and advanced education, how does she view that? She views that as, oh, you don't respect the things that I want to be validated on. I need to prove myself to you, right? So I'm not just challenging her. And then I say, so this you know, pursuing your degree, are you actually doing this for you, or are you doing this to like please some other people? So now I'm actually even going a step further, and I'm poking fun at the very fact that she wants people's approval, right? Now, this is really kind of, I don't want to say fucked up, but it is kind of like a trappy thing in a way. Because it's like, she wants my approval, and I'm teasing her for wanting people's approval. So she wants to get my approval by proving she doesn't want to get people's approval. Like, it's a kind of a weird double bind. But essentially, the reason this exists is because I know exactly what she's assigning approval to. I know exactly what her blueprint is for what she feels valuable, what she feels is valuable in other people, and what she wants to impress people by being. And because I can understand that, I can get in there and I can challenge her in a way that is meaningful to her. Right? If I challenge her on like, hey, are you a good cook? Quite possibly she doesn't give a fuck. You are a dork, but you're an adorable one. I like it.
Thanks. So what do you do? Besides just travel.
Well, the short story is I used to play poker, and now I don't really have to anymore. I invest in travel and...
That's nice. Social workers don't do that. I don't know if you're familiar.
You don't travel, you don't invest,
I try and travel. I don't think I have it.
So what have I done here? She asked me a biographical question. I said a bunch of things that are stereotypically, generally, things that almost everybody wants in their life, and that was my answer to what I do for a living, right? Which it actually is accurate in a way. I just chose favorable things. But now, then she just said, you know, people in her line of work don't get to do those things, and now that's the subject of conversation. So literally the subject of conversation is the fact that I'm cooler than her. Right now, I never said, hey, I'm cooler than you, because that's combative. That's like a fighting frame, and that's like me trying to be insulting, that's me trying to one-up, that's me being try-hard, that's me having an agenda. But instead, I just told her a bunch of characteristics that are positive things about my life that I happen to know she doesn't have, and then she is saying that she's unfamiliar with them. So now literally the conversation is, Todd, you're cooler than me. It's kind of a good frame to become from, and kind of the opposite frame of what most guys are dealing with when they're dealing with attractive girls.
I invest in my education, I guess.
Investing in yourself. It is what it is. Fair enough.
Whether it works out for me or not,
I know.
to be determined.
Tell you what, you can bring the good karma to the relationship, and I'll bring everything practical in the real world, and it'll be great.
Okay, that's all we need. Balance each other out right there.
Look at that. You're like, we already established it's not going to work. You're so ready to just jump right back on board with me. See? We're going to have an on again, off again thing. I don't know.
Sometimes it's all you can do.
So notice what's going on here. Again, who's always one step ahead with the frame, right? I tease a little bit, like push her away. She goes along with that. I pull her back in, she goes along with that. I point out the fact that she just got pulled back in, and it's always a step ahead, a step ahead, a step ahead. I'm the cooler one. And again, over and over and over again, I'm insinuating the frame that we're in a relationship, right? And now we're in a relationship where I'm bringing everything to the table as well, okay? So just think, like, from a frame perspective, how good of a frame is this to be operating from, and how different of a frame is this than the frame that most guys are in when dealing with girls?
What? How old do you think that is?
Oh my God. Old enough to use the cheesiest lines over and over again.
Yeah.
So that's going to be at like 23, 24, something like that. You're right, son. All right.
No, you're wrong.
How old are you? Oh. Well, look at you.
Yeah,
so precocious.
I usually get older though. I usually get like 26. That's what people tell me.
Well, you usually don't give people cheesy pickup lines in bars, so you know.
Yeah. You're in there. But...
You're in there?
Yeah, how old are you?
How old am I?
Yeah.
How old do you think?
28.
I'm a little older than that.
30.
A little older.
34.
I want to say a little older and just keep you guessing, but I am 34.
Okay.
Yeah. I wanted to keep going and see how long you'd believe. It'd be like 60, 65.
I think I would have walked away before I hit 65.
Oh, really? You're an ageist. You're a social worker. You're supposed to be politically correct. So let's look at what was just said there. This is really interesting, okay? So on the surface, right, she said if you'd gotten to 65, I would have walked away. So on the surface, it's very negative. And most guys would take that as a negative, a push away, oh, she doesn't like me that much, or oh, she's trying to be teasing, or she's giving me a shit test, whatever, right? But what's actually going on here? Now, under what context or what premise would me being 65 be a problem? There is one and only one, which is if she's looking at me in a sexual way. That is the only way that it's a problem. So for her to say, if you're 65, I would have walked away, well, she hasn't walked away. So she's saying that I am here for sex. I am here evaluating you as a sexual prospect, and you are doing successfully as a sexual prospect, and that is why I have not walked away. All right, so instead of it being a shit test or a reason to walk away, this is like one of the biggest green lights. It's one of the biggest, like, okay, I'm in. This girl really likes me. I'm in. She's seeing things the right way. Like, it's extraordinarily positive. And this is what I mean when I talk about understanding how to speak woman. Because probably 95% of guys would take this as a negative or a shit test to be passed or something like that. But if you acknowledge it for what it actually is, it's her being massively attracted to you and letting you know that she is. Okay? Massive, massive difference in interpretation from just understanding and asking not just what's the surface, but why would she say that? Ask why. Ask what is the woman's experience and ask why is she saying this. What if I'm just very healthy and well preserved?
Could be it.
Nah. It's okay, don't worry.
But you should have been like maybe a little like grossed out by my age if you were 65.
As long as you're mature. Well, no, but you know, but I'm also not 65, so your maturity level only has to be up to a certain.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that one.
Well, no, but never mind.
Why? No, nothing.
I was gonna say I'm 65 from the waist down, so don't get any ideas. Okay, I'm used. Okay, what I just did there with the actually never mind. That's called an open loop. It's massively powerful because most girls they do not like being left in suspense. They want to know the answer. They hate the idea that like they're not in the know. They also always worry that like it's something about them, something devalidating, something they would have to worry about, etc. So when I do that, I kind of bait her to ask me. But here's the other great thing. I'm about to do something really cheesy. So if I just brought up the small penis joke like out of nowhere, it's extremely cheesy. Like it's extremely like a forced sexual, like forcing sex into the conversation. It's not funny. It's not a good joke. It's not like really that great. It's not classy. There's a lot of things that are kind of wrong about it, right? So if I just brought it up, it'd be very try-hard, very uncouth, etc. But when I say, oh, actually, you know what, never mind, and then she asks, and then you tell her based on her asking, Well, you actually were trying not to bring that up. You were trying not to be dirty. You were trying not to be uncouth. You weren't trying to bring sex into the conversation. She like twisted your arm and wrenched it out of you. So now you have a total pass on it. How interesting is that? So if you ever want to introduce something into the conversation that without it being your fault or without it being try hard, this is a massively useful technique because, again, anything that she asked for is not your fault. And we talked about honest signals before. Anything that is try hard is probably not a very good honest signal. Anything that happened by accident is a good honest signal, right? So, or just the very fact that the entire set is happening by accident, things are progressing by accident, it means that like there's not a lot of intentionality, there's not a lot of agenda, so it conveys very positive things about you in general, okay? It's a very, very good, like minor little technique, but how good is it for making everything seem less intentional?
The only things I like to be 65. It worked out for both of us. Why did you think I wouldn't be about that?
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Why in the hell would a girl want a 65-year-old penis? Answer, she wouldn't. So what's up with this? Okay, well, now what she's doing is she's trying so hard to appear like she doesn't want me. And again, let's look a little deeper. If she really didn't want me and really didn't care about my opinion of her, would she try this hard? No. She just let it slide. It's like if a 5-year-old hit on you, you wouldn't go out of your way explaining to the 5-year-old you're not going to date him because he's just outside of the right category. The fact that she's going so far out of her way to not validate me or to not say that like anything sexual is going on between us just indicates how reactive she is. So this is another case of on the surface, it seems like a negative, but if you look deeper, it's a massive positive. What she's really saying, like what I read this as, I don't even worry about the words. What I'm reading is, I'm reacting to you, Todd. I am emotionally invested in you, Todd. Right? So the subtext matters far more than the words, again, in this context. I'll be very sexually undemanding. I'll be quick, you won't feel a thing. And
No sex before marriage.
right, I'm a virgin too.
Yeah. You think I'm joking?
You are fucking adorable. This is more of the same. One thing I want to point out, since there'll be a blur on her face, is the fact that like she literally couldn't keep a straight face while saying that. That changes a lot of things. So my response to that shit test was to stare her down, and she literally like couldn't hold eye contact without breaking. It's tough to see that with the blur, so I just wanted to point that out to you guys. I'm surprised by you.
Why?
Do you know the phrase to grow on someone? Most people do the opposite with me.
Oh, you picky.
I mean, I think anyone with the ability to be should be, yes?
I disagree.
You disagree?
Totally believe that there's something good about everyone and that.
This next little bit I'm kind of just going to let run, at least unless I see something else to mention within it, I'm probably going to just let it run. But what I want to point out is this little dialogue is a great example of emotions versus logic, okay? Because what she's basically doing is she's going to say that like, everyone deserves a participation ribbon and everyone's the same and everyone's valuable, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, which is very, very politically correct. It's very much what you're taught in school. It's very much what like a democratic society would have us believe, et cetera, right? It's also very much not fucking true, okay? There are people that are smarter than other people. There are people that are faster than other people. There are people that are better than other people at everything in life. It just is the case, right? So this is her view is political correctness kind of like taking over from reality. My view here is very much the evolutionary one, the sort of survival of the fittest. Some people are better than others. You need to make good choices about the people you let in your life, kind of a thing. So basically, my conversation is actually representing the thoughts of the girl's biology, whereas her conversation is actually representing the thoughts of the society. So she's representing society, I'm representing biology. I just want to like kind of point that out because it's just a very unique debate in that kind of context. And I'm playing up the guy that's completely okay with that survival of the fittest world and very confident in his abilities within that world. And so again, I'm trying to just communicate with her on an emotional level and on like kind of like a primal level, even though it is a very logical, wordy kind of conversation. And again, I'm not going to allow her into that frame of societal conditioning. I'm not going to allow her into that frame of like total political correctness because that politically correct frame does not lead to one-night stands. And even beyond that, it doesn't lead to girls doing crazy things. It doesn't lead to outrageous, spontaneous things with new strangers, that kind of stuff. Okay, so the text. The textual level, the literal level, is this debate about like, is everybody equal or not? But the subtext is biology and evolution versus society. Yeah, but how are you going to get the best if you don't ask for it and strive for it?
But how can you not bring out the best in someone else?
I do. I bring out the best in people I select as the best.
That's not fair.
Why is that not fair?
Because you're missing out on a lot of people.
There's 7 billion or so in the world. I don't have time for all of them. I have to pick and choose. You know, if everyone's special.
But it would be better if it was random selection, not a systematic selection.
Really? No. No. Like, if you were hiring for a job, would you want someone that has a certain credential, or would you just want any random person off the street?
That's completely different.
It's random selection versus discerning selection.
I'm selecting someone to fill a role. By being my friend, you're not fulfilling a role.
By being my friends, or anything else, you would be filling a role.
To pick up to. Perfect.
You know. That said, to your credit, you're not falling far short of the parameters thus far. So
I kind of wish I was.
Yeah.
Just so you would just so I could feel the wrath of that.
The wrath. This is another one of those very interesting things for her to say. I kind of wish I was. I wish I was falling short of your standards, etc., etc. What does that mean, right? She wishes she was a worse person. She wishes she was less attractive, less intelligent, etc., etc. What does this actually mean? It means that she can tell that she's being very reactive to me, and she wishes she wasn't. Right? She can tell she's kind of slipping into being reactive to me. She kind of wants to disappoint me just to get back at me. So she's just being very emotionally reactive to the point that she's not even being rational at all. Now, there's not some really, really deep, huge hidden meaning in this, but it's just another one of those indicators, just another signpost. Todd, she's having a good emotional experience with you. Todd, she's emotionally reactive to you. Todd, she sees you as high value. Todd, she's chasing, etc. So it's just another indicator that things are going well, that maybe you can escalate. Maybe, if you do get a number, it'll be more solid. Maybe you can venue change. It's just another great signpost that a lot of guys miss. I wouldn't be wrath. It'd be more ice. It'd be nice to meet you, bud. Okay, you see what I just did there? Where I turned my back like I was going to walk away, and then I came back. Now, ideally, in a perfect world, a lot of times, and this actually does happen a lot of times, when I turn around like that, a lot of times girls will grab my arm and pull me back, and that's the ideal. Because when that happens, they're making an actual action of chasing, an action of pulling you back towards them in the physical world. That's ideal. However, even when she doesn't do it, the fact that I turn away like that, if for even a second she thinks I actually mean it, if for even a fraction of a second, she's going to get that feeling in the pit of her stomach like she lost me, right? And that's just going to remind her, it's going to let her know very strongly how much she doesn't want me to leave. It's going to let her know how bad it would feel if I walked away at that moment, right? It's a useful thing to have. Most people, women in particular, respond much more to fear of loss than desire for gain, right? Also, a lot of times a girl will have a lot of positive emotions around you, but she doesn't really logically realize that she's associated with you in this positive way. But then when she feels that negative about you leaving, that's going to really snap it into her logical mind. Oh shit, I like this guy, right? So very, very useful technique to do is the back turn. You can do it, excuse me, you can do it very seriously at times. There are times when you can do it a lot more playfully. But the serious one tends to get a bigger emotional reaction. The playful one's good because if you do it and it doesn't come off or it doesn't really work, you just come back like nothing happened. But it's a very good technique to employ for all these reasons. The biggest being to take whatever's going on emotionally in the woman and make it a tangible, logical construct. Actually, it'd be very pleasant. It'd be like, you know what, it's been a pleasure meeting. It's been amazing. I do have to, my friends, I think, yep, that was them buzzing. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, it's been real. Have a good time in my city, and see you never.
Your city, okay. I'll avoid the meatpacking district from here on out.
I mean, unless you want to be friends and hang out.
I mean, I'm not meeting your standards.
I didn't say you weren't. I said you were. I said, thankfully, you're not falling well short of my standards, so.
Thanks.
You're very welcome.
I live to meet your standards.
So that phrase right there is the microcosm of exactly what I'm saying, right? What is she? She's sarcastically saying, thanks, I live to meet your standards. She's going so far out of her way to point out that she's trying not to meet my standards, that what's she really pointing out? She's pointing out that she's very, very reactive to me. That's a little strong, we're just met.
This is sarcasm right there.
Can you, what is that?
About the soda?
No, sarcasm, what is that? Vodka soda I'm acquainted with. Sarcasm is foreign to me.
Actually, it's just water with lime in it.
Is it really? You're trying to fool and trick innocent boys to getting drunk so you can take advantage of them while you drink water?
No, I brought my roofies for that. Come on.
Fair enough.
No, it's actually not.
At least promise that you'll cuddle with me and get me in a safe cab home, okay?
I mean, you said roofies really aren't worth you because you're at 65 from the waist down, so unhelpful right there.
Oh, you can mix roofies and Viagra, I suppose. That'd be like a interesting little cocktail.
I didn't bring my Viagra, so you would have to supply that. That just complicates everything.
And we're back to I bring everything to this relationship.
Oh, you bring everything?
Everything.
I think I bring the looks.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Kindness?
I mean, you are pretty, but like I think that's insulting. So now we've gotten to the point where it's accepted there is a relationship. The relationship that we're discussing is her like Viagra roofie raping me, which is interesting and highly sexual. So it's clearly like there aren't a lot of sexually taboo topics at this point. And then in terms of what does she bring to the table relative to me, she's like struggling to come up with what she maybe brings to the table in this relationship. All right, just contrast this frame to the frame you probably have in most of your interactions when you first meet a girl, and especially in the first 13 minutes of meeting a girl.
Just roll with it.
You probably are kinder than I, actually.
Yeah. I think I bring the fun.
You bring the fun? You obviously have never met me, dear.
I think we just met actually. So that's funny.
Yeah, you obviously never met me prior to 5 minutes ago.
Yeah. Why?
I don't know. Because I don't know, fun isn't my word to describe it. Adventure would be a better word. Adventure, adventurous. Fun you can determine, I suppose. Fair enough. I'm a little tempted to take you on an adventure, but I don't know you that well. And also you seem...
Yeah, I mean, like, I have plans for tonight, but I'm up for adventure. Yeah, and you're meeting your friends.
Eventually, yeah.
And I'm firm on not being a flaky person and not contributing to other people being flaky people.
So a couple things just happened here. One, I just hinted at plans just to kind of like put out there and see what's going on. But you'll notice like I didn't actually ask for plans. I hinted very, very subtly. So what happened though? She said she is down for plans and adventures. That's positive. And then she said I have plans as sort of like an excuse. And then she said this whole thing, I'm committed to not being flaky and not contributing to flakiness, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So essentially she's saying like there is this external condition that like she's not going to violate. There's other people depending on her. It would be socially awkward, et cetera, those kind of things. But it's very interesting what she didn't say. What she didn't say is that she's meeting a friend she's excited to see or anything along those lines. So she's definitely blatantly like pushing away any of those kind of thoughts, right? She's basically referring to social courtesy as her reason and not good friend or I like this guy or anything like that. Whenever a girl goes out of her way to point out that a relationship's not sexual or she doesn't like a guy or anything like that, like if you're in a conversation and she tells a story and then she happens to throw out, oh, we're just friends or something like that, that's a massive positive indicator. Anytime she goes out of her way to show non-attachment to other guys, show she's single, show that a particular other guy is not in that category, if a girl ever does that, you should immediately think, this girl likes me and this girl likes me within a sexual frame. Very, very good indicators. Now this is a much subtler version of that than what you normally see or what you normally come across, but I just want to point out the phenomenon because it's a huge one and it comes up a lot. For one, my friends would understand. If I told them I met someone cool, they'd be like, all right.
What's the matter?
That said, We've barely met, and let's take it slow on all of that in general before we like get into all that.
Yeah. You don't want to be halfway into an adventure with me and then just want to ditch me. That'd just be awkward.
I manage. I'm good at extricating.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. I would join you for a quick drink while we're here if you would like. I know you have a half. I have a 0.
Yeah, you
a
should
lot?
go get a drink. Yeah.
Fair enough.
So I'm not the only alcoholic.
Shall we? You're adorable. So this person you're allegedly meeting, I'm guessing, what, Tinder date? Whatever. Worse. Oh God.
Getting into the details.
Oh God, worse.
I've met him before. Hung out with him a couple times.
Okay. But that's worse? Okay.
Situations of
Okay.
Oh, I love
You roofied him too? So this is a continuation on the theme I was just saying before, which is she's, again, going out of her way not to talk up the other guy, not to say what he is to her, that kind of stuff. I don't know if it's a dude she's hooking up with. I don't know if it's a friend, whatever. But she's definitely going out of her way to appear single to me, which is very, very good news in terms of that. And then when I said you roofied him too, she got this like look on her face of like kind of ooh gross or whatever, which indicates to me that I think it's more of a friend thing than a sexual thing. I mean, I don't know what the entire nature of it is. Could be a guy that wants to have sex with her, but it's just friends. I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, this is more of sort of that sub-communication of availability to me.
Well, it'll all work out. I've done that well so far. It'll be fun.
I just like giving you a heads up and stuff.
I have said hey. I don't mind it.
I can tell.
What? Are you like glaring at me intently?
Intently, perhaps. Glaring, never.
Gazing. Is that
Wow.
your preferred?
That makes it sound so like, I don't know.
adjective?
Makes it sound so forward of me. Gazing intently.
It is a little forward.
Really? Would you prefer I were backward?
Always like it's backward.
For good momentarily. How presently are you expecting your compatriot?
Think he's here. Just not going to approach him first.
Another massively positive indicator. The person she's meeting is already here. She's probably already seen him and decided to not go see him in order to hang out with me longer. And again, massively positive indicator, right? All these things really are, lining up as this is good. She's feeling good about me emotionally. She likes me, et cetera, et cetera. Now, of course, a girl's never going to come out and say that I like you. I decided to hang out with you instead of him, because that's too much making it easy for you. They'll try and be a little subtle about it. But anytime girls are helping things move forward or girls are indicating availability, take that with several grains of salt. It's very, very useful, very, very helpful.
What?
What am I going to do with you? All right, so here's the deal with me, just so you know. So that's adorable. So I am here for like one more day and then I'm flying to LA. I'll be back in like a week and a half.
Yeah.
You'd like to grab a drink in a week and a half?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. How would I contact you? I'm gonna get a drink, but how would I
I
contact
have a phone.
you? Okay.
It's like this crazy thing. I don't know if you've heard of it before, but
I
do
use
have
smoke
one.
signals personally, but I can upgrade.
My pigeon, he just like broke a wing, and it's hard to find a good pigeon these days,
So you don't take care of your pigeons, they won't take care of you.
It wasn't my fault.
All right. You have to remind me your name though. You're adorable. We can't do that. I'm a virgin, remember?
Same.
I know, right? I will hopefully get to hang out with you in a week and a half or so. You're fun for sure.
Don't be flaky though.
Oh my God.
I'm joking.
All right. Have some semblance of fun, and if you get bored, text me and be like, "Hey, I'm bored. Save me."
Alright, yeah. Have a good night. Oh, I don't have your number.
I'll text you.
Night. Meet up with you.
Yeah.
Maybe approach this guy. Probably not.
You want some help?
No.
All right.
Clearly, I'm fine just walking around with you.
All right. So as mentioned in the original sort of general clip, these are all really good indicators. She's going out of her way to make sure that the number is correct. She's following my frames, all these kind of things. So these are indicators and hallmarks of a very solid number. as you can see. And also this set in general, the entire interaction has had a lot of indicators of she likes me, it's solid, she's committed, she's bought in. So it all looks pretty good. In certain contexts, in certain circumstances, again, I would try and stay with the girl longer, take her home. But overall, looking at all the variables together, I just didn't think it was either A, necessarily going to happen, or B, going to be worth my time in terms of the amount of time, energy, and effort it would have taken to make that happen, and the amount of like sort of social resistance I might come up against. So again, just took the number and then followed up that way.